Beach Church! It's Friday again. Thank you for joining me. Today's reading is Genesis 31 through 33. And we're reading about Jacob. And in chapter 31, we are seeing that Jacob is finally leaving Laban. He's been there for 20 years. He has 2 wives. He has children. He has servants. He has livestock. And things have shifted. Like, Laban's sons have rescinded Jacob's prosperity, and Laban's attitude has shifted. And so we see that Jacob needs to go. And so he goes and gets his belongings and his wives. But we see that Rachel, his wife, secretly takes her father's household idols. And so Laban comes after them. And once they finally meet up, like, he goes through everything and he can't find these things. And the chapter ends with a covenant boundary. And it was actually a physical marker of stones that separate. And what I think that this represents in this covenant is the old life versus Jacob's new life. And in chapter 31, what we're seeing is Jacob obeys God. Like, God's saying, you need to leave. And this was really hard for Jacob, right? Because he had gone through these years of manipulation, like 20 years of working for this man. And this man had changed his wages 10 times. But Jacob learns that God, not man. So God, not anything of the flesh, has been his true provider and protector this whole time. So we go on to chapter 32. And this is where it gets interesting. Like, we see Jacob literally wrestle with God, right? So Jacob's free from Laban, but his brother's out there still looming. And when Jacob hears that his brother's coming, they would tell him, your brother's coming with 400 men. And Jacob's, terrified. And so he splits up his family and his livestock, and the fear overwhelms him. And he just starts preparing for, practically he's preparing. And he goes, and this is one of the most important prayers, and he starts praying. And that night, Jacob wrestles with this mysterious man, right? God himself. The struggle lasts until dawn, and Jacob refuses to let go without a blessing. And God changes Jacob's name to Israel that day. And what that means is he who wrestles with God, right? So Israel means he who wrestles with God. And Jacob left limping, but he was changed forever. And Jacob realizes now that his biggest battle was not his brother, but it was within himself. And God wounds Jacob, but it's to strengthen and deepen his dependence. And what is so miraculous about this chapter is he gets a new name, and it signifies new identity. It's pretty spectacular. So I've been thinking about this and thinking about this chapter, and I want you to think about how God deals with our hearts before we go through certain circumstances. And I also want us to think about prayer is not polished. is persistent and honest. And I struggle with this all the time. You know, I'll go into prayer and go blank. And sometimes I just lay there and just say, Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. But it doesn't matter that it's not polished. It matters that we're persistent and we're honest in these prayers. What I also learned from this chapter is that our spiritual growth, our strengthening our faith, can leave marks, just like it did to Jacob. But we become stronger in this faith. So I went on down, and when I was reading chapter 33, this is a wonderful chapter. And we see this reconciliation, and God's going before us. You know, Jacob finally meets up with his brother. And remember, they were the twins in the womb that were fighting. And he meets up with him, and, you know, he's expecting these 400 men. He's expecting this battle. He's, you know, this fear has overtaken him. And instead of the hostility, his brother runs to him and embraces him, and they're weeping, and the fear just becomes a moment of grace. Like, and Jacob humbles himself and repeatedly acknowledges God's favor. Like he was, and we do that all the time. We have all of this anxiety, and we're so fearful. I do it all the time. I probably did it half a dozen times this week, right? We do it in work. We do it in our family. We do it in everyday life, and we build things up, and we're so anxious, and we worry ourselves to death. But this chapter shows us that through prayer and faith, we don't have to have all of the anxiety. God has gone before us. And what we learned was God resolved Jacob's fear. His brother came, and there was no more fear. He knew that God had intervened. Reconciliation comes from humility, or comes through humility, not manipulation. We can't, and remember, I'm in politics, so this is a little hard for me. We can't manipulate. We have to go to God in prayer and in faith and lay it at his altar and give it to him. It is not for us to do. It is not for us to try to maneuver. We have to give it to God, because he will go before us, and it will be his will. We see in this chapter, God's grace restores broken relationships. Well, that hits home for me. I know for myself that there are relationships in my life I pray for daily, still, every day, multiple times a day, that God heals them and gives complete healing, and that one day we can restore a relationship. And my prayer is, I know that if God restores it, it's going to be greater than it ever was. And we saw that in these chapters. So, have faith, give it to God, be humble, and he'll take care of the rest. Well, Beach Church, I hope that you're staying up with your reading. I will see you next Friday. I hope to see you this Sunday. We have a 9 o'clock service, and we have a 11 o'clock service.